everybody and welcome to How to Make a Mario Plush Video 2.0. This is an updated, more advanced version of the series I made in 2014. This series will consist of 5 parts. Part 1 will be preparing for your plush video. Part 2 will be filming your Mario Plush video. Part 3 will be editing. Part 4 will be a little more advanced and will focusing on visual effects and special effects. Finally, Part 5 will be uploading your Mario Plush video and managing your YouTube account. This part is a bit more challenging and more advanced. If you do not have the materials or assets required, then you may skip this part. This portion is optional. Without further ado, let's begin. Visual effects are an optional technique when making a Mario Plush video. I will be using a lot of expensive software and assets in this video, so you certainly do not have to follow along and may skip this video. It is fun, however, to see how the visual effects are made behind the scenes. First things first, I'm going to talk about using a green screen. Green screens usually run for about $50, but a set like this can cost even more with the lighting equipment. We are going to be each using a plush toy that we're going to use for the green screen. I'm going to choose Mario. I will be mounting the camera on the tripod and placing Mario in front of the green screen. Here is what the clip will look like. That's Mario, but let's see a character that works well with the blue screen. Luigi. Luigi is a very interesting character because he is both green and blue. I use the blue screen though because it works pretty well. Here is the shot with Luigi in front of the blue screen. Let's look behind the scenes to see how it's done. Here we are in Final Cut Pro, and we're going to go down and choose the keying effect. Let's place the keying effect on top of Mario. Now that this is done, the green behind Mario is completely gone. It is now transparent. This same basic concept applies for blue screens as well. But for Luigi, we're going to be doing something a bit different. Let's go over to the Keyer Effect panel and see what we can do. If we pull up the fill holes, you can see Luigi's body gets filled in. Let's pull the spill level all the way down. This increases the blue in the scene. Next, I'm going to take a sample color of the blue to remove the blue along the edges. This is a pretty good key for Luigi, and it works very, very well. Alright, we are done with the basic green screening. Let's move on to the actual visual effects. There are 3 programs for doing this: Motion, Blender, and After Effects. They all do different things, but we're going to mainly be focusing on After Effects. Blender, however, does 3D modeling. Alright, we're in After Effects. This may look a bit intimidating, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it. In Finder, I'm going to pull up the demonstrational clip we'll be using for this tutorial. To create a new composition, simply drag your clip from the library into the composition panel. Once this is done, you'll have your clip in the composition ready to edit. Now, let's move on to the effects. There are a ton of effects to choose from, but first, we're going to be using a background. This is the circuit background. Each one of these are animated. Pretty cool, huh? There are a lot of other ones if you don't like the circuit. Or, you can change the color. Let's change the highlights to a brightish red color, like pink. Let's also change the midtones to a red and keep the black. Let's move on and look at some other effects, like hair for instance. That one's pretty cool. I really like Mr. Mercury. It looks really 3-dimensional and is also animated for you. There are many different effects to experiment with, so try them all. Okay, let's take a look at animating things. See these little stopwatches? Yeah, these are the keyframes. They're kind of like the diamonds from Final Cut Pro. When I click the opacity, I'm going to move ahead in the timeline, change it to 0, and watch as the clip fades away. Okay, now it's time to explain the infamous method of rotoscoping. I'm going to duplicate the clip, and then I'm going to double click on it. Up on the toolbar, you'll see the roto brush. This will help you with rotoscoping. I'm going to scale it down a bit and color over the area. As you can see, the rest is keyed out. Once I am done drawing, I don't have to draw again unless I'm making an edit to the rotoscope. This is because After Effects automatically tracks the motion of the object and makes the mask follow that object around in the scene. I have placed a black solid in between the 2 layers, and as you can see, the rotoscope has really worked. The background is keyed out. Before we get into the real visual effects work, we're going to go to animation and click track camera. After Effects will look for points of high contrast and use them to create a virtual camera. Once this process is complete, you will see a ton of points all over your clip. If you right click on 3 of them and click create solid and camera, this will create the virtual camera and a solid. The solid is moving with the rest of the scene, so we know the camera track worked. To put this camera track data into good use, let's hop over to Bridge and choose some effects we want to use. All of the effects shown here were downloaded from Video Copilot and arranged in Bridge. Video Copilot is a great site for your visual effects work. The 2 main packs I use is Optical Flares and Action Essentials 2. Let's click on Details for Action Essentials 2. These effects cost quite a bit of money, and you do not necessarily need to buy them. The next pack I bought is Optical Flares, but this one is a plugin for After Effects. You will need After Effects if you want to buy this plugin. I will be covering Optical Flares later in this video. Back to Bridge, let's look for an effect we would want to use in our video. This explosion effect looks pretty decent. Let's right click on it and click Place in After Effects. This will place the clip in After Effects library. Now I will drag it over to the composition layers. One thing many people forget to do with fire explosion effects is set the blending mode to screen. This will get rid of the darkest parts of the clip. In order to make this clip 3-dimensional and make it follow the solid as a part of the camera tracking, click the squiggly and drag it over to the track solid. You just parented the object. Now, click the check mark for 3-dimensional. This will convert the layer into a 3D scene, and it is now part of the camera tracking data. I am now going to use the rotation tool to adjust this clip to make it less flat and how I want it. Okay, that looks pretty good. We'll keep it at that. Obviously, there needs to be some scorch marks on the ground to make it look a bit more realistic. There are textures that come with Action Essentials 2. I'm going to choose this one and place in Adobe After Effects. Once again, we're going to repeat the same process. This time, the blending mode will be set to multiply to get rid of the white. In order to parent this texture, I'm going to duplicate the track solid. I've finished adjusting my texture, but I think it needs a mask. Let's choose the pen tool and draw an outline around the texture. Once your mask is complete, let's edit the feather. This is like the Draw Mask tool from Final Cut Pro. Feather is sort of like the hardness along the edges. Our mask looks pretty decent, so let's move on. I'm going to want to keyframe the opacity because, well, the texture, the scorch mark comes in after the explosion blows up, so it wouldn't look right with the scorch mark there before. When designing an explosion, you're going to want to use a lot of assets to make it really pop and make it unique. I'm going to add in a charge. This charge in particular looks really good because of the fireworks that form after the charge is blown up. Once again, duplicate the track solid and adjust the transformation like you did with the other clips. I would like to add some debris to make this effect look a bit more realistic. Bouncing debris is pretty good, so let's add it to Adobe After Effects. Let's place it in the composition and repeat the same process as before. Now our explosion is looking really good. Look at that. Looks pretty good, right? I think we are pretty much done with our explosion. Finally, I would like to show off some optical flares and how to use them. First things first, we're going to create a solid and set the blending mode to screen to get rid of the black. Now, we're going to add some optical flares on top of that layer. On the left, you will see the effects panel pop up with the optical flares. This effect creates a lens flare. If we were to click on options, we can now customize our lens flare. Let's first click clear all and head over to the basics. We can add a bunch of different layers to this optical flare. Be sure to try them all out, see which ones work for you, which ones do not. Alright, let's head over to the preset browser and check out all the presets. These are already made for you, you don't have to really do anything. Pretty cool, right? For the explosion, I'm going to be choosing a warm flare, like air missile. Looks pretty good, let's add it in. Let's place it right where the fire is and where the explosion starts. I'm going to be changing the color to an orangey color to match the fire. We can also adjust some settings like the brightness and scale. As you can see, brightness makes it brighter, and the scale will make it bigger. You can also keyframe a lot of things in optical flares. I will be keyframing the brightness to make it brighter with the explosion. Alright, I animated the lens flare. Let's try adding a second lens flare. This time, we have to set the render mode to over original. This flare is mainly just to make the shot look cool, and I'm going to be using a cool flare. I'm going to be putting the flare off to the side, out of the way. Let's adjust the brightness so we can at least see it. Another cool thing you can do with flares is adjust the flicker. If I set the speed and amount, you'll see the flare flicker a bit. I set both the speed and amount to 100, so you can see it a bit better. Okay, we are completely done the explosion. Let's render it and check out the final product. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to EpicMarioBros for more awesome videos like this. Thank you and bye.